Hope you're feeling refreshed. So the second half is all about using stories to provide a context for language learning. And we're going to be working with this book, The Tiger Who Came to Tea. Not sure if you're familiar with it. We'll talk about the origins of the book later. I'm going to start with a gist listening activity. So it's a popular children's story. You're going to need this handout, the storytelling handout. And we're going to watch the video and decide what is the correct order of the pictures. All right, that's a simple gist listening activity that would be good for younger children. But as you watch, try and think about how the gist activity could be made more challenging for older students. Because it's kind of an easy one. All you have to do is put the pictures in order. Right? But I'd like you to try and do this and give me the answers at the end of the video, but also think about how we can make it more challenging for older students. Let's begin by playing the video. Yeah, you've got the handout ready. Just check you have it. Storytelling handout. Let's play. It's not a great recording. It jumps around a bit, but it's the best I could find. Here we go. Playing.
The Tiger Who Came to Tea. Once there was a little girl called Sophie, and she was having tea with her mummy in the kitchen. Suddenly, there was a ring at the door. Sophie's mummy said, "I wonder who that can be. It can't be the milkman, because he came this morning. And it can't be the boy from the grocer, because this isn't the day he comes. And it can't be Daddy, because he's got his key. We'd better open the door and see."
I wonder who that can be.
Sophie opened the door, and there was a big, furry, stripy tiger.
Do you think I could have tea with you?
Sophie's mummy said, "Of course, come in." So the tiger came into the kitchen and sat down at the table. Sophie's mummy said, "Would you like a sandwich?" But the tiger didn't just take one sandwich. He took all the sandwiches on the plate and swallowed them in one big mouthful. Oh! And he still looked hungry, so Sophie passed him the buns. But again, the tiger didn't eat just one bun. He ate all the buns on the dish, and then he ate all the biscuits and all the cake until there was nothing left to eat on the table. So Sophie's mummy said, "Would you like a drink?" And the tiger drank all the milk in the milk jug and all the tea in the teapot. And then he looked round the kitchen to see what else he could find. He ate all the supper that was cooking in the saucepans, and all the food in the fridge, and all the packets and tins in the cupboard, and he drank all the milk and all the orange juice and all Daddy's beer and all the water in the tap. Then he said, "Thank you for my nice tea. I think I'd better go now." And he went. Sophie's mummy said, "I don't know what to do. I've got nothing for Daddy's supper. The tiger has eaten it all." and Sophie found she couldn't have her bath because the tiger had drunk all the water in the tap. Just then Sophie's daddy came home. So Sophie and her mummy told him what had happened and how the tiger had eaten all the food and drunk all the drink. And Sophie's daddy said, "I know what we'll do. I've got a very good idea. We'll put on our coats and go to a cafe." So they went out in the dark and all the street lamps were lit and all the cars had their lights on, and they walked down the road to a cafe. And they had a lovely supper with sausages and chips and ice cream. In the morning, Sophie and her mummy went shopping and they bought lots more things to eat. And they also bought a very big tin of tiger food in case the tiger should come to tea again. But he never did.
All right. Please put the order of the pictures into the chat. Let's check. So everyone says that F goes first, followed by C. Yes, I have that. B is third. E is fourth. D and then A. Correct. All right, so kind of easy. Doesn't involve much language, does it? How can we make a just activity a little bit more challenging? Any suggestions?
Maybe
Lulu,
for
go ahead.
for-
Yeah.
Maybe for 5th and 6th grade, you can ask them to write some vocabulary words that they listen for each picture, not only the order.
All right, just pause a second. That would be useful if you want them to exploit the language in the text, yeah. But we haven't got to that stage yet. Okay, we're thinking about the gist, right? Remember, gist is about the general understanding of the text. So if you wanted to devise a gist activity that's a little bit more challenging than the one we've done, what can we do? Yeah, we'll save the vocabulary for later. Yeah, Jessica.
I think that we could ask them to give a brainstorm and ask them what can you see in this image in the cover and beginning before begin the video.
Okay. So you want to get them to predict the content of the story. Is that what you're saying? You want them to predict the content of the story. Could be. Ines, what's your idea?
It was also using the pictures, the ABC, to predict. So first they just put them in order of how they think the story will go, even before reading the story.
Yeah, and then listen and confirm. And tick them off.
Listen and confirm.
What about you, Alondra?
I was thinking not to use the pictures, and then the students need to write the order of the things that the tiger eats. They listen the story, and they are going to write the things the tiger eats.
Okay, that's an interesting idea. But it could be a bit challenging listening and watching because it moves quite quickly. So what you could do is perhaps have the items written on a whiteboard, right?
Yes, like-
So
like-
like buns, tea, and so on. So which does the tiger eat first? And as they watch, they've got to put them in order.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's better. Yes, thank
that's
you.
an idea. Yeah, because you don't want to make it too difficult for them while they're watching. The one I thought of, perhaps for maybe older primary school, is take sentences from the text that go with the pictures. Right, so for picture F, right, her mum is serving tea. She was having tea with her mummy in the kitchen. Right, so you take those sentences and give them a letter, like F. She was having, let's call her Sophie. Sophie was having tea with her mummy in the kitchen, right? So that is taken directly from the text, right? And picture C, if we look there, it's where he's drinking the tea. And so you maybe take a sentence from that. So that would be, would you like a drink? All right. So you've got maybe 6 sentences all taken from the text. Give them a letter. So then you get the students to watch or listen to the story, and they've got to put those sentences in the right order. You could have them on post-its, right? And they've got to put them in the right order as they listen. So that would be a gist, bit more challenging gist activity. Now, which of these techniques did the storyteller use? Not all apply here because we didn't see the storyteller, right? But what do you think is a good idea when telling a story? Let's put a tick. Vary your voice for different parts of the story. Do you think that's a good idea? Yeah, I reckon. Use sound effects. Did we hear any sound effects in the story? Well, we heard music, certainly. What about different voices for different characters? Were there different voices in the story? I think so. There were, weren't they? Because she put on a deeper voice for the father. Or a deep the tiger had its own voice as well, didn't it? Yeah. So different voices for the characters.
Yes, they use different voices and gestures too.
Yeah. Gestures. Well, we didn't see the storyteller, but
The-
if you were a teacher in the class, you'd probably use gestures. right?
Yes,
Yeah. Make eye contact with the listeners. That's probably a good idea as well if you're teaching it.
yeah,
Yeah. You could involve the students. Maybe by, I don't know, how could you involve the students in a story like this? but it's probably a good idea, right?
Yeah,
Facial expressions. Maybe they surprise when the tiger comes through the door. Okay. Now, I think all of them are a good idea, actually, when you're teaching them in front of the class. Now, let's focus on the language. What language, aspects of grammar structures, vocabulary, and pronunciation would you choose to focus students' attention on after the storytelling? Right. So after they've listened, maybe answered some comprehension questions about the story, we can focus their attention on some of the language, right? So I'd like us to split into two groups, and we're going to work in breakout rooms, and I'd like you to, before we go into breakout rooms, we'll listen again, and I'd like you to note down some interesting structures, grammar structures that you hear. So have a pencil ready, pen or pencil, ready to note down some. So think about grammar structures. Think about vocabulary. Obviously, there's quite a lot of food vocabulary. And pronunciation. All right, so I'm going to split you into two groups according to age groups. Now, does anyone teach 7 to 9-year-olds?
Me.
You do, Alondra. Excellent. So, Alondra, 7 to 9. So I'll have you cover 7 to 9 if that's okay.
Okay.
Does anyone else teach that age group? Has anyone ever taught that age group? Okay, Lulu, could you work with Alondra on that one? Okay. So Alondra and Lulu. Seven to 9. So I guess Jessica and Ines, could you cover the 10 to 12? Bit older. To 12. Yes. Okay, so let's watch again. Make some notes on grammar, vocab, or pronunciation. Possibilities. So to do that, we've got to listen carefully once again.
The Tiger Who Came to Tea. Once there was a little girl called Sophie, and she was having tea with her mummy in the kitchen. Suddenly, there was a ring at the door. Sophie's mummy said, "I wonder who that can be. It can't be the milkman, because he came this morning. And it can't be the boy from the grocer, because this isn't the day he comes. And it can't be Daddy, because he's got his key. We'd better open the door and see."
I wonder who that can be.
Sophie opened the door, and there was a big, furry, stripy tiger.
Do you think I could have tea with you?
Sophie's mummy said, "Of course, come in." So the tiger came into the kitchen and sat down at the table. Sophie's mummy said, "Would you like a sandwich?" But the tiger didn't just take one sandwich, He took all the sandwiches on the plate and swallowed them in one big mouthful. Oh, and he still looked hungry, so Sophie passed him the buns. But again, the tiger didn't eat just one bun. He ate all the buns on the dish, and then he ate all the biscuits and all the cake until there was nothing left to eat on the table. So Sophie's mummy said, "Would you like a drink?" And the tiger drank all the milk in the milk jug and all the tea in the teapot. And then he looked round the kitchen to see what else he could find. He ate all the supper that was cooking in the saucepans, and all the food in the fridge, and all the packets and tins in the cupboard, and he drank all the milk and all the orange juice and all Daddy's beer and all the water in the tap. Then he said, "Thank you for my nice tea. I think I'd better go now." And he went. Sophie's mummy said, "I don't know what to do. I've got nothing for Daddy's supper. The tiger has eaten it all." And Sophie found she couldn't have her bath because the tiger had drunk all the water in the tap. Just then Sophie's daddy came home. So Sophie and her mummy told him what had happened and how the tiger had eaten all the food and drunk all the drink. And Sophie's daddy said, "I know what we'll do. I've got a very good idea. We'll put on our coats and go to a cafe." So they went out in the dark and all the street lamps were lit and all the cars had their lights on, and they walked down the road to a cafe. And they had a lovely supper with sausages and chips and ice cream. In the morning, Sophie and her mummy went shopping and they bought lots more things to eat. And they also bought a very big tin of tiger food in case the tiger should come to tea again. But he never did.
Okay, so I'm going to put you into your breakout rooms to discuss what you could focus on in terms of language. So Alondra and Lulu, 7 to 9 year olds. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more basic. Jessica and Ness, 10 to 12, possibly a bit more advanced. Okay, how about 8 minutes? Enough. Let's go.
Would we be teaching the grammar? What did you think?
Tell me.
I thought that they emphasized a lot on all. I don't know, all the food, all the. I don't know, but. Or even it could be on questions, like, would you like? And that's all I was thinking, like, either questions on offering.
Yes, well, I think that we could focus with them. I think we can begin with showing simple structure. For example, guys, and we are going to talk about present tense, for example, and we can write in the whiteboard and the simple structure like subject plus verb plus complement, and give them some vocabulary, for example, no more than 5 words, special words that can help them to to get the context of the story, and practicing this part pronunciation with these words, and the number of the syllables of the words and the stress syllable. Sorry.
Let's see.
Because in this way, you are giving them something that they can use to help to understand the gist and to find the gist of the story. I think.
Okay. Because I thought it was after.
Okay, but you've already covered the gist. We've already done the gist, so we're focusing more on language.
Okay.
You mentioned the present simple, but there's no examples of the present simple in the text. It's all past. Yeah.
Okay, we change it to the past, maybe. Maybe,
Yeah. But
maybe we do
because
that.
but these are quite young students though. They're 7 to 9. You're the young ones, aren't you? You're covering the young ones or the older ones?
10 and 12.
Oh, okay. So maybe you could cover the past. Maybe they have an idea of the past. Simple.
In past?
Could be. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's certainly not present though. It's all in the past.
Simple past.
And they were, was it more irregular verbs? Because it was like 8.
Okay.
Okay, what ideas do you have so far?
I think we are in the same line. We choose grammar structures. We choose past simple tense and countable and uncountable nouns. Vocabulary will be food vocabulary, and also pronunciation will be food vocabulary.
That makes sense, yeah. Because they're quite young children, though, they may not even have ever studied the past tense, yeah, in English. So
Yeah.
might-
You start with I mean, these verbs that they mentioned, you start working with since first grade,
Mm,
like at the when you're finishing first grade.
okay,
Yep.
good.
And we
What
have
about what about pronunciation?
good vocabulary. Good.
Okay, can you think of any examples of pronunciation that might cause difficulties?
Biscuits.
Yeah, we could.
Biscuits, yes.
Yeah, that's
And-
one. Sandwich.
Sandwich, yeah, because they always say sandwich. Yeah.
Yeah. And
What
the
about sausage? Sausage. So it's like the idge ending, because they'll
Yes.
say sausage, right? But they need to say sausage.
Sausage.
Sausage rhymes with language. Yeah. So it has it has an idge ending. Idge, like that. Idge.
and sometimes T because they start like te. Also T could be
Tea.
water.
Also milk, because milk.
Yeah.
That's a different sound.
Yeah.
Tea buns. I don't know. I write some food that mentioned in the story, like biscuits, milk, tea, buns, sandwich, and cake. Like the non sound e.
Yes.
Juice, another one. Yeah. Consonant sound at the beginning is quite strong. Juice.
Juice. I don't remember another English word that mentions in the story, but I only wrote that.
Okay, you've got about 40 seconds left.
Soup, they mention like this soup, so they tend to mix the words.
Uh-huh. And I was thinking about irregular verbs too, in past, like ate, came, told, said.
Mhm.
In grammar, for past simple,
Yeah,
give them to a vocabulary of irregular verbs.
yeah.
So it was Alondra and Lulu that were covering the 7 to 9-year-olds. Okay, so can you tell us what grammar, vocab, pronunciation you would use in your lesson?
Grammar is the past simple tense and countable and uncountable nouns.
Can you give any examples of countable and uncountable nouns you would go for?
Like water will be uncountable and
Tea, milk,
also, yeah, milk, tea,
Countable?
sandwich,
Yeah.
cake,
Yeah.
buns.
So that's vocab, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
What about pronunciation?
Food vocabulary and irregular verbs.
So it's like individual words, right?
Yes.
Individual sounds in these words that might cause problems. So examples were?
We have biscuits.
Yeah.
I don't know how to. I need a class for that.
The U is silent, yeah? Biscuits is how you pronounce it. Biscuits, like biscuits Obregon, yeah?
Okay, like
Biscuits.
tea,
Milk,
milk.
Yeah, I suppose they could say te, yeah. Milk, I don't
Yeah.
think, shouldn't be too problematic. They usually pronounce the L okay. It tends to be these consonant clusters at the end of words that they have problems with.
Sandwich, yeah.
So sandwich, like, so we call these consonant clusters. At the end of words.
Also, the E at the end of the words, like, doesn't sound like in cake.
or in juice.
I think most Spanish speakers are okay with that, but it's things like sandwich or sausage, right?
Okay.
These word endings they often have problems with. Sausage. And it's like an ij ending. Ij.
Okay.
Sausage. Language. Good. Anything else?
No.
No.
So the other age group was 10 to 12. And that was Ines and Jessica. What did you have for that?
Okay, and we are going, in this case, we are going to practice to past tense.
Is it past simple or are there other tenses? as well?
Simple,
Past simple.
simple.
Yeah.
Yes, to begin. And we thought that we can give them, for example, 5 words in present tense. And because in this way they can identify the words, meanwhile they are watching the video, identify the words in past tense about irregular verbs, to practice how to identify the verb is changing.
Okay, so yeah, you could give them all the verbs in the present tense, and they've
Yes,
got
in the present tense, for
so-
example, a little list, like
Yeah.
5 words,
yeah.
and you can give them only this part to focus their attention to catch these words.
Okay, so then they've got to maybe tick the ones they hear and write it in the past tense.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. Any other grammar issues that you would cover?
And do you want to tell him, Ines?
Yeah, at first I was thinking of like the question forms, but like you said, it could be too difficult for
Uh-huh.
and that's what got me thinking with Jessica, like some groups, like one really needs to know their own group, what they have, because for some 10 to 12-year-olds, their English is more advanced. So they actually need even more challenge, like more challenging activities and grammar. And other groups, they could be 10 and 12 and not have, still enough vocabulary or so. But yeah, maybe I would add the question from a would you like, would you,
Could you teach them as functions?
sorry?
Could you teach them as functions? You've done CELTA, right? So you know what functional language is, right?
Yes, functional language.
What functions are these? Would you like a sandwich? Would you like a drink?
Would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah, but what is the function there?
Is it is it like a offering?
Yes, making an offer or an invitation, right?
An invitation.
Yeah. So functional language is always useful because they can use it in real life, can't they, the students? Yeah. Functional language.
Functional language.
It's like everyday language, isn't it? So the function there would be offering or inviting. Inviting a guest, right?
Also, a question. They had a lot in the story that it can't be when they were knocking on the door. There was the language of it can't be the milkman. It can't be the father. It can't be. It's almost like your.
So that is what function is that?
Now I know it's something, but I forgot.
Deducting.
Deducting, that's right.
Deducting.
Yeah.
And so it could also be that, right? We could teach that.
Like
Language of deducting and speculating, yeah.
Speculating. And we was talking about that we can ask them pause watching the video, and we can show them the simple structure to create a sentence. For example, we can show subject plus verb in past, and close complement, and
Uh-huh.
they have to write at least 1 or 2 sentences, and then they have to practice too pronunciation talking about it.
All right. So what pronunciation would you focus on?
Well, only to present the example.
Okay, but examples of what? What would your pronunciation focus be then in the book?
For example, in past,
And past
the irregular
irregular verbs.
verbs. For example, there's the ate. I think many students would probably say like ate,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
ate. So paying attention to those
Okay, that makes sense.
things. In the past simple, and maybe in the, of course, in the question forms, the would you, how the you is more
So is that stress or intonation or both?
well, in the question forms,
In
you would
in
have
the
to pay
functions, yeah?
attention to
Would you like a sandwich? Would you like a drink?
Intonation.
It's intonation, isn't it, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to get the intonation right to make it look like a question.
mhm.
Uh-huh. Especially on the functions. Yeah.
Yes.
But also how it connects, right? The
Yeah.
word would you.
Would you? Yeah.
Because it goes, would you
Would you? Yes.
that's-
make
have
it
to
sound
join.
more
Connected speech.
Join the 2 words,
mhm.
and then we can count the syllables, the number of the syllables,
Yeah.
and identify the stress syllable.
Good. Yeah. I think those are appropriate for 10 to 12-year-olds. And I think your 7 to 9-year-olds are appropriate activities as well. Now, Cambridge actually have a little lesson plan to show us. So I'll share it with you into the chat. It's in the form of a screenshot. So shared it with you now. Have a look at that. So just get one of you to please read out the. Can someone read the first box for us, starting with food? In voz alta. So Alondra, could you start reading it?
Sorry?
Could you start reading out the lesson plan in voz alta and aloud so we can, yeah?
Yes, the topic food. Additional resources, storybook, The Tiger Who Came to Tea, Judith Kerr, and flashcard of 8 target vocabulary food items. Age group 6 to 7 years. Learning outcomes, children practice and learn topic vocabulary, milk, cakes, water, biscuits, sandwich, sausage, cheese, and eggs. Previous learning. Children are used to listening to the stories and working with flashcards.
Just pause. What is a flashcard?
You can put the pictures of the vocabulary in a paper.
Yeah.
And then you show to the students the picture with the word.
Is the word on the same page of the picture, or is it on the other side?
I used to work with both. Sometimes
Yeah, it can be both, can't it? Oh.
So.
Okay, please continue. Yeah.
Yes. Possible problems and solutions. The storybook is authentic, so language is not read or select. I will need to simplify some of the language. I may use lesson 1 to explain milkman. Is lesson 1? To explain milkman having tea and
First language.
First, okay. Sorry. Grocer boy if children are confused. Children will get excited after the flashcard game and will need settling before the end of the class. Assessment evidence, I will know if they have learned food vocabulary when they have to say target words in the memory flashcard game at the end of the class.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jessica, could you continue with the steps for the procedure?
Yes, of course. Procedural steps. Ask class to sit in a circle on the floor and brainstorm food vocabulary. And number 2, use food flashcards to check pronunciation of target words. Number 3, show class the storybook and ask them what it is about. It's about a tiger who visits a little girl for tea and eats all the food in the house. Number 4, tell the story prompting children to use target vocabulary. Number 5, ask the class to sit at their desk and put the food flashcards on the board. Number 6, tell the class to close their eyes, remove one flashcard, and ask them to put up hands to say which one it is. Number 7, review language and finish class.
Sounds like it could work, right? Seems appropriate, not too difficult for the age group. Yeah. And it's all about learning food vocabulary. Good, but I thought your ideas were just as good. Now, let's now think about the wider issues of storytelling. I'd like you to please answer these questions with a partner. So what is the difference between storytelling and reading or reading aloud? Do you tell stories in the classroom? How do you feel about using stories in the classroom? Okay. So those questions, just those 3. Okay, I'd like you to talk with your partner and answer them. It might be the case that you don't use stories at all. But you'll still have an opinion about using stories in the classroom, right? Because when you were learning English, probably your teacher used them. So let's briefly discuss those questions. I'll give you about 4 minutes, starting now.
There is a difference.
Sorry?
What do you think? What is the difference between storytelling and reading aloud?
I I think the storytelling is where you have to bring kind of the story to life. So you have to do the voices, you have to do the expressions.
You go.
Oh, I go. Sorry, I didn't hear. Okay, I think a storyteller use more details when he's telling the story. Like sound effects, moves, different voices. And it's more like dynamic. And a reading, it's only a reading, like plain. Simple. Mhm.
That's right. Also, when you ask them to read aloud, they keep their same voice level or their same rhythm. They don't move. But when you tell a story or they do this storytelling time,
Mhm.
they change. You can perform, you can move, you can show, for example, if you have a lot of materials or a lot of stuff in your classroom, you can use like, and then the flower goes up.
Yes.
Yeah, that,
More dynamic, right?
yeah. Do you tell stories in the classroom?
Yes, I used to. Yes.
Okay.
I think it's so good for the students to know how to use the words in a sentence and in a context.
Yeah, I'm agree. And they get engaged with your topic. I mean,
Yes.
if you're talking like in this example about food, they get engaged with the vocabulary, and then if you ask them like the next week, they will remember.
Well, now, do you tell stories? Do you tell stories in the classroom?
I do. Yes, I do
Yes,
tell.
me too. Me too. To
And
give examples, to give them examples.
but I do, like you say, I think I do more the storytelling where sometimes it's almost like adding a little bit more to make it, I don't know, to capture their attention.
For example, you can use when I was a little child, when I was a little girl, I used to, for example, and you began to talk in past, no, about yourself.
But I do with books because I'm with very young children. So
Yes, yes, it's true.
it has to be-
In my case, when you begin to talk about it, what means what happened when you were a little girl?
okay, so you can kind of just start
Yes,
capture their attention.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
that's very interesting.
yes.
No, with me, if I did that, they would not pay any attention.
Okay.
Okay, so oops. So the difference between storytelling and reading aloud. So storytelling implies that the story is told from memory rather than being read from a book or piece of paper. Right? It's often to do with folk traditions in countries, isn't it? It suggests the use of drama and different voices to increase interest and engage the listeners. There may also be more interaction with the listeners in the form of questions and so on. So what about those two other questions? Do you the other questions were? Oops. Do you still tell stories in the classroom? Who does it? Who teaches using stories? Anyone?
Me.
Everyone? Does everyone here use stories in their classes?
Yes.
Okay, there's no one that doesn't use stories. How do you feel about using them then?
I enjoy it. It's good. It's different.
But do the students enjoy it, or is it just you that enjoys it?
Well, I feel happy because I think that I like to act. I like to move and do some gestures and change my voice. And sometimes I use a lot my hands a lot, sorry. And for example, I move in the classroom, and sometimes I took one of the students with me and ask him or ask her to help me to explain this situation or this thing that is happening.
Mhm.
I love it.
Great. Now, time is kind of running out a bit, so I'm going to ask you to choose one of these questions to answer. Okay, so we've got 4 questions here, and we've got 4 participants. Okay, so I'm going to ask each participant to choose a question to answer. Ines, which one would you like to choose?
Maybe why is it a good idea to use stories in the
Okay,
classroom?
let's put Ines's name against that one. Okay. So I want you to think about the answer for a couple of minutes. Okay. Alondra, which one are you going to answer?
How can you use the stories in the classroom?
Alondra, okay, correct. Yeah. Jessica, which one?
Which stories can you use in the classroom?
Okay. So I'm afraid, Lulu, that leaves you with the useful language. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about the answers before you answer. So think about it, make some notes. Starting now, a couple of minutes to think about that. is up. A couple of minutes is done. So let's start with the first question here. Which stories can you use in the classroom? And once you've given your answer, I will give some further suggested answers, okay? So, Jessica, go
Yes.
ahead.
Well, I think that we can use life stories, or for example, some topic and a special topic, for example, stereotypes,
Mhm.
and or personal growth, and to, for example, talk about the life about one successful singer or writer or a special person, and his achievements, and how can he or she achieve this successful. And because, for example, focusing in the age in the 10 to 12 years old, for example,
Hmm.
because they are feeling different things, because they are changing. And I think that if they can listen this kind of stories, they can learn that they have possibilities.
Yeah, great ideas. Yeah, I like the idea of personal development. Alondra, how can you use stories in the classroom?
I used to teach first when I use a story. It's because I already teach grammar and vocabulary, so the students can see how they can use the content in a context.
Okay, but isn't it better to use the story first and then do the grammar afterwards?
I don't know, maybe, but I used to work like that. In the book that we use, it comes like the last activity. So you can complain with the grammar and vocabulary, so the students can be more in context about how to use the words and rules.
Okay.
The grammatic.
But normally the recommended procedure is to use the story first and get them to understand the story by asking questions, comprehension questions, right? Then you can work on exploiting the language within the story. Because linguists usually recommend that you work on the meaning first before you look at grammar issues. Grammar is mainly to do with form and so on. Yeah, it does have its meaning aspect, but the idea is that the students will understand the grammar better if they've like processed the story and they understand, like, in terms of the gist, and then maybe they've answered some questions about the detail.
Okay.
What do you think? You don't agree?
First, when I'm teaching a new lesson, I like to the order in the book is like vocabulary, then the meaning of the words that we're going to are using in the lesson, and then I teach some ways to use in sentence or things like that, and then they read the story.
Okay.
So, but I'm going to do the way that you told me, so I'm going to check how it's better.
Well, yeah, it's worth experimenting, yeah, and see which works better. Ines, what about this question? Why is it a good idea to use stories in the classroom?
I think it's a good idea first because it's good for their creativity, for them to learn how, like, their imagination, how to visualize. I think as well with children nowadays that they have technology, so so close to them. It's also when you read a story, and you do it regularly, it can be good for their attention span. But at the language part, it's like you said, it's good for as well their comprehension, to find new vocabulary, new grammar, stories as well. You can use different in the classroom. You can use different skills, both like receptive skills. Because if you read a story, they're listening, they're receiving information. You can also use their productive skills. They can then speak about the story. They can write about the story. Like it's an activity that you can do a lot with a story. And I think as well, it's good for their, when they do it regularly, I think it becomes good for the self-esteem and their confidence, because they begin to understand more of stories. So I think as well, they'll feel better about themselves in the classroom, and it will motivate them to learn more, I think.
Right, yeah. Lulu, what useful language for storytelling is there?
I'm not sure if I really understand this question, but I think you tend to use language like a lot of adverbs to make it more interesting. You use the most important language that you need in the storytelling is how you show them their vocabulary, how to use the adverbs and the adjectives also. And of course you have the different tenses, but you start like managing your voice level, and if you're working on a topic, you can speak louder in that grammar or vocabulary that you are trying to show them. Also, you can use something like.
Aren't there sort of phrases that you often encounter in certain stories? I'm sure you're familiar with Shrek, right? Shrek the movie. They often use phrases like "far, far away," right? Muy, muy lejano, right?
You can use like suddenly,
Yeah.
so that, look at, still,
Yeah.
to Shrek, surprise. You can use a lot of like present perfect continuous to set
All
some.
right. But not so much the grammar, but let's consider actually these sort of expressions, fixed expressions. So let's just quickly go through the answers, recommended answers. So which stories can you use in the classroom? So it could be stories in your course book, could be family stories, your own personal stories as a teacher. There could be news stories, modern contemporary stories, stories from history, or it could be traditional stories like myths and legends. Yeah. Make sense?
Yeah.
Why is it a good idea to use stories in the classroom? Well, Mary Slattery and Jane Willis in English for Primary teachers, say that stories help children relate new things to what they know already, help children to look at real life from different viewpoints, and imagine what it feels like to be someone else. They can introduce the child to other cultures and attitudes. They let children share their experiences with the group. That way everyone listens and feels sad or happy. You can link it to other subjects the child is learning about in school, right? But not necessarily in English. So maybe you could link it to something in Spanish, in the Spanish lessons. Help children to develop their thinking skills. Are interesting and enjoyable and can be fun. How can you use stories in the classroom? You can use them in many different ways. They can be used for listening practice. Remember, each time teacher uses English, students are getting an opportunity to acquire language and absorb sounds and intonation patterns. So according to the natural approach, it's important that students receive a lot of comprehensible input, in order to acquire language. Not so much learn, but acquire, like pick it up. So they need lots of exposure. They can be used for presenting new vocabulary or structures in context. That's what we consider today. Using the book here and then looking at the language within the book. Give children confidence in using English. And then they can be used for leading on to reading, writing, and speaking practice. What useful language for storytelling is there? So I would think about expressions, chunks, right? Oops. C-H-U-N-K-S. Whole expressions that we can use to improve fluency. Like once upon a time, they lived happily ever after. Right? You just get them to memorize those expressions. But you can also have questions to involve your audience and check the learners understand. Teacher asks, what do you think happened next? What did he say? Why did he do that? Questions for learners to predict the story. What will he do next? What will happen? And that's why telling stories is such a rich source of language. Okay, and that's it. So that's storytelling. We'll continue next time with storytelling because it's a big area. But for the last hour, we need to look at project-based learning. Now, this is kind of related to what we were doing today with the video. So, little presentation, and then I'm going to give you a little task to do regarding a project. So, it's subheading here is motivating young learners. So, hopefully I'll have you understand what PBL is, why it's important to incorporate projects, and how do projects motivate learners. We'll finish with a project idea. So what is it? Well, it provides opportunities for students to pursue their own interests and questions and make decisions about how they will find answers, solve problems. It emphasizes learning activities that are long-term, interdisciplinary, student-centered and integrated with real-world issues and practices. Projects should include adequate structure and feedback to help students to make thoughtful decisions and revisions. Why incorporate projects? Well, we get students to create and manage their project, and in the process, they will develop teamwork, innovation and creativity, critical thinking skills, study skills, cooperation, collaboration, and communication. How can they motivate your students? Well, PBL provides choice in the classroom. Students can express their individuality through their choices. And they feel that they are being taken into account and respected. So we need to make tasks like real world, make them purposeful, to be able to activate and make students independent. We want them to solve problems so that they can learn by doing. We need to make them memorable so that students own the learning. We need to provide an audience so that maybe students can do a presentation and get a response. And we need to have engaging and meaningful tasks. Some disadvantages of project work. Well, students can use their own language sometimes. If the class are monolingual, like old Spanish speakers, they may use their L1 a lot. This often happens anyway in young learner classes, so you need to decide whether the benefits of doing project work outweigh this factor. Some learners may do nothing. By giving more freedom to students, you also may be giving them the freedom to do nothing. If the project is planned carefully and the rules decided at the proposal stage, this is less likely to happen. Groups working at different speeds. So one group may have finished the project for a couple of hours and say they have nothing to do. Remind them it's their responsibility to fill the time allocated to project work and discuss ways they could extend the work they have already completed. And next. Here's a project based on readers. This is a summer school I worked in. Students were encouraged to have a reader during the month. A reader is like a simplified book. So, for example, Sherlock Holmes, right? A Sherlock Holmes book, but it's simplified, made easier. Let's see if I've got an example here. No, I don't. But this is not always a popular requirement, so I decided to have the learners use the readers in a way they might find motivating. So I chose 4 different readers that also had been made into films, like The Full Monty, The Client, the Dracula, and Mosquito Coast. These are more like teenager type topics. And each group, they received copies of their reader. The learners were then given freedom, free rein, to do whatever they liked as long as it was somehow connected to the reader. There were some examples of the work produced were summaries of the story. They produced crucigrammars, or word searches of vocabulary from the story. They produced reviews of the book. They found out information about the history of Dracula and the different countries that it's set in, like Romania and also the town of Whitby in Yorkshire in England. They filmed a scene from the book, like dressed up as Dracula and so on. Made a little movie, a video of that. They did a presentation of a clip from the movie compared to a scene in the book. They produced biographies and photos of actors from the film. So that was quite productive. Another one is a music project. We mentioned music earlier. So if your class loves songs, this could be a motivating project. You could make a CD or album cover. They could invent the band and the names and biographies of the band members. They could video an interview with the band. They record a song. My son has done something recently like this. Students often borrowed the music and wrote their own lyrics. They could write gig reviews, like concert reviews. They could make a photo shoot of the band. They could design a poster advertising concerts, gigs. So there's some ideas. Now, this is over to you. Some practical activities. You can answer these questions. Oops. And put them into the chat. And the questions are going to be asked about the following materials. So these are the materials I sent you in the email. Okay, so we need to start with the lesson plan. Okay, here's the lesson plan. Let's have a look at the lesson plan. So the topic is the following. Festivals. The aims to develop integrated skills, reading, speaking, and writing around the topic of festivals. So learn and practice vocabulary for describing festivals, okay? So have a read through this lesson plan, first of all. Okay. That's the first stage. Then have a look at each of the other handouts that go with the project. So Snake Festival. Lund diving. Hong Kong Bun Festival. And the final one is May Day. So these are all the readings that the students are going to do. This is like the material for the project, right? But you need to start with a lesson plan first. So I'd like you to please work together in pairs. Consider the questions. What's the project? What skills are being practiced? What level would you use it for? Is it adaptable? Could you use it with different levels or age groups, right, of young learners? If so, how would you adapt it? How long would it take in terms of how many lessons would it take? Right? Would it be just like one 40-minute lesson, or could it be a series? Can you extend this over a series of lessons, which is more like what a project is? Right? A project often extends over different lessons. Because you've got a topic, you're developing it in different areas. All right. So I'm going to give you about 15 minutes to read through the materials and discuss those questions. Can please one of you note down your answers? So I'm going to have Jessica and Lulu work together, and Alondra and Ines this time. So one of you please note down the answers to the questions. So Jessica and Lulu, who's going to be the clerk? Who's going to be the secretary here? Jessica or Lulu? Who's going to be the writer and write down the answers? Jessica, you're saying yes, you'll do it? You'll be the writer, okay? In your group? It's just notes, yeah? It doesn't have to be like full sentences or anything. Yeah, just like keywords. Alondra and Ines, who's going to be the scribe in your group? When you're doing project work, it's a good idea to give different roles to the students, right? Especially the strong students who might dominate. We mentioned that.
Alondra, I can write. I can be the one writing.
Is that okay, Alondra, if Ines writes?
Yes, it's okay. Thank you, Ines.
Okay, good. Okay, right. So I'll give you about 15 minutes to read through and answer those questions. You can do it in breakout rooms. Lulu, are you having problems? Yeah, you need to go to room 1 with Jessica.
He sent us something else.
Yeah, he sent 3 different projects.
No, it's one project, and it's called festivals, right?
Yes, festival.
Yeah,
It's because
but they're
You
all part of the same. They're all part of the same project. The other things are the handouts that go with the lesson plan.
yep. Okay. I think you can adapt this project to any grade.
Are you having problems?
I'm just reading through the festivals, right? Because we have to choose one, right?
No, you just have to answer the questions about the material.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what is the project? What skills are being practiced? Yeah. It's all one project. Yeah. There's a lesson plan, but there are 4 pieces of material that go with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the project.
So, what is the project? First of all, Alondra, do you have any idea?
Sorry,
What,
Alondra was. Oh, there.
Yes. No, I don't have it.
Well, look at the material I've sent you. Yeah, it was in the email, and it's
Yes.
also I sent it through the chat. So, yeah, this is the lesson plan, all right? But all the material goes with this, right? So all the other material, like the Snake Festival, is just a reading that the students do together. It's actually called a jigsaw reading. So each student has a reading about a different festival, and they're going to read and summarize it to each other. So Snake Festival, Bun Festival, and Diving Festival.
Okay.
So this is the first stage is like what's called the jigsaw reading, right? When they exchange information about their festivals. Yeah. Okay, so I've kind of answered the first question for you, but try and answer the other ones. What skills are being practiced? What level would you use it for? How would you adapt it? How long would it take? What support would you provide for the learners? All right.
Well, they're going to use both receptive and productive skills.
To the festival, if we are going to talk about Day of the Dead, we can use a lot of videos, movies. Also, you can use movies.
You could ask them to write a calaverita.
Yeah, of course.
In English.
Yes, of course.
And draw a school, for example, a school like this.
Yeah, of course. And if you are working with higher students, like with older students, like 10 to 12 years old, they can do some handcrafts like your cup, maybe.
Okay. Well, don't forget that for a younger group, something like Day of the Dead might be good, but maybe if it's slightly older students and you want them to do some research, maybe you could think about doing something like the Guelaguetza, right? You'd have to,
Okay.
yeah, which
Maybe.
would require them to do more research because everyone knows about Day of the Dead in Mexico, right? It doesn't require any
only
research. Yeah.
It was only like one of our examples.
Yeah.
But they also with the Guelaguetza, they can do this
Yes, it's a.
The hats, the
Let me look for the word.
And how would what level would you use it for?
How will you adapt it?
I think maybe thinking of like younger learners.
How can we?
Adapt it. Maybe like the language has to be simplified.
Yes,
But it is
we-
quite a long text and like it refers to very specific,
and
like-
adding pictures.
maybe by adding pictures, or maybe even not doing it about festivals, maybe doing it about a topic that they're more familiar with.
Yes, I agree with you.
Well, wait a minute. It does say festivals. So, and if you look at the end, the outcome says here at the bottom of the lesson plan, ask each group to invent a festival for a specific calendar event,
Okay.
using the table to structure their discussion.
So we need to adapt the topic for other students.
Well, yes, you can adapt it for different age groups, but it needs to be really the end product needs to be inventing a festival. Inventing a festival, yeah. Earlier on, perhaps you could show some pictures of festivals they might be more familiar with, like Day of the Dead, or in Mexico, or Guelaguetza.
Mhm.
Yeah, something that they can research about.
Okay.
But this needs to be the outcome or aim is to invent a festival.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then make a presentation on it.
So maybe that get festivals that they are more familiar with,
Wait.
like the Day of the Dead, if we're doing it here.
Yes, like first, the teacher does a presentation about the festival. They are into it.
Right there.
like I forgot the word in English, but
Let me see.
sí es como
He says los valles centrales,
ajá,
la Sierra de Juárez.
Sierra, Valles. I forgot the other ones,
Okay.
but you can choose one of these and divide your student like in that number of groups, and they can
work in groups
yeah.
and create a presentation, for example.
In introduction, they will have to do some research about this festival, and they will have to answer some questions about their reading. Then they can share the information with the other groups.
And they can integrate at the final to create a final presentation with all the information. What do you think?
Yeah, of course.
No? And maybe they can dance or something like this, a traditional.
Like a mini Guelaguetza, yes.
Yes, and show one of the traditional outfit. I don't know, because this isn't a costume, it's an outfit, traditional outfit.
Yeah.
I don't know, how can we say?
Well,
yes.
there you have to think in the costs because they are too expensive.
Too creative. Yes.
Jessica, are you making notes? Because you're going to have to report back to the whole group.
Sorry?
Are you making notes?
Yes, I'm taking here my notes.
Good, because you'll have to report to the whole
Okay.
group at the end. You've got about 3 minutes left.
Yep. And here in vocabulary, of course, you're going to talk about music, about food vocabulary.
Thinking too, like in and see in 60 minutes we can like prepare the whole activity, and then they can look for a festival to, they need to invent, right, a festival, so they can invent
The end. Like that could be one lesson in itself, right?
Yeah.
That task, the following up task, could be
Uh-huh.
one lesson in itself.
Mhm.
Let's see where we should write this shit. So
So we
maybe
can,
one lesson will be the warm up, the vocabulary brainstorm, and
yes,
maybe the like lead in.
uh-huh,
Hmm,
and then
no, oh. 1 hour, the warm up. Because I think they, in that 1 hour, like you'd also have to provide maybe with videos,
mhm.
not
And-
just the. So that's
Mm.
where the support would go in. Like we'd have to
Mhm.
put more.
The meaning of the words, like for example, the Guelaguetza, it's not a usual word, the meaning of or the story of the words,
Mhm.
context.
So 1 hour for that. Then the jigsaw reading.
And in the time for invent a story, I think we can do that in another hour.
So I think it'd be like 3 lessons, no?
Yes.
1
Yeah.
hour lessons.
3 hours, you think?
I think so. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think 3 hours.
That's it, right? Or we have another question?
No, I think we covered all of them. Mhm.
Oh.
We did it on time.
Yes.
Good job, right on time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh,
Great. So let's just have a quick report back and then we're just about done for today. Jessica, would you please go first? Tell us how you answered those questions.
Okay. So, well, the project that we was creating, Lulu and I, it's about Guelaguetza. And okay, the skills that we are, okay, help me.
I'm going to help you in this one. You're going to practice all the skills because they will have to, first, they will have to read about the story, the history of the Guelaguetza, and writing skills because they will have to do some reports and they will have to answer some questions about each region. Speaking skills because they are going to present the project at the end, so they will have to speak and they will have to explain. And listening skills because they are going to see some videos about this festival, so they can get like involved in all the story and the details. Yeah. Then what level would you use it for and how would you adapt it? We said that we can use it for any age, it will you will have to adapt. Like if you're going to do it with the first grade, of course they are not going to learn all the story, but they can see some videos and you can explain them and you can play with them and you can help them, and at the end they can dance or do something. Of course, with a higher level, you can do more deep research or something. And the last one, Jessie.
Yes, how long will it take and what support would you provide for your learners? Okay, it could take, I think, to prepare it, one or two, well, I think 1 or 2 lessons, yes. And we can provide them some material.
Sorry, how long will the lessons be?
Okay, like each lesson, like a 50 or 60 minutes, so I can think that 120 minutes to prepare it.
We also say that we can use it like in 1 month. You can start like week number 1, you're going to read and to research. Week number 2, you will have to see some videos, etc. It's a big festival, right?
And we can provide them some materials and we can create together the materials. For example, to create the traditional outfit and maybe to practice some dance to present. And we can work in groups. For example, one group can research about one region and the group number 2 another one. And at the end, they can integrate information and create only one presentation with all the information.
Great, yes, definitely. I think there needs to be a presentation of the festival that they've invented at the end. Yeah, to make it purposeful, right? That's one of the features of a project, that it has some sort of purpose or outcome at the end. Yeah. Real world tasks with a purpose. So like giving a presentation is a real world task. Yeah. It just happens to be on the topic of a of a festival. Great, well done. Ines, you're the scribe for the other group.
We started a bit confused about what it was, but we kind of got there. So the project was, they have to come up, like their objective is to come up with their own festival at the end, but they start by learning about different festivals that already exist in different parts of the world. We talked about the skills that were practiced in the activity. We kind of said it was like integrated skills, like you taught us, because it's multiple skills that they have to use, like the receptive skills because they're listening for information, productive skills because they have to write, or they as well will speak about the festivals. The level we would use it as what it is now, we thought it would be for like an intermediate, like B1 class, but of course it can be adapted. And we would have adapted it by maybe simplifying the language in the texts, make it more simpler, provide them with like pictures, with videos beforehand, maybe take away some festivals and put in festivals that they have in their own culture, like here, the Day of the Dead. Then we thought of how long it would take. And we were thinking about like three lessons, like 1 hour lessons. first lesson would kind of be the warmer, the brainstorm, vocab brainstorm, and they could do kind of the lead-in discussion. The second hour, they could be just a jigsaw reading, because I think that would take a long time. And the next hour would be their own like preparation of their festival. And depending on whether they, what Jessica and Lulu came up with of doing their own festival is a great idea. So we didn't get that far. I don't know if Alondra wants to add something.
Okay, thank you, Ines.
No.
Nice ideas, everyone. Yeah. So I think one of the key features is that there needs to be some sort of outcome, and also the project has to take place over multiple lessons, so that students have the opportunity to maybe do research, do parts of it for homework, bring their ideas to class, rehearse even, right? Give them the opportunity to record their presentation. You can give feedback on the presentation before they actually deliver the presentation in front of the whole class. And you could use video for that as well. They could make their own videos of their festivals, their invented festival. Good job. So some key concepts today have been, as Ines mentioned, integrated skills. Alondra, can you remember what integrated skills means?
Can you repeat the question, sorry?
Yeah, what does integrated skills mean?
Okay, how did you say? When they read, they speak. Let me clarify my ideas.
Yeah.
I wrote it in my notebook. Let me check. Receptive skill in what is the name of the other one? I didn't write it. The receptive skill, can you help me? It's reading, speaking, listening, productive skills.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else.
Yeah, it basically means where several skills are combined in one lesson. And we saw that today in our video demonstration, right? Integrated skills. But we also saw it in the project. Yeah. So projects are particularly good at developing integrated skills, real life skills. So with integrated skills, there's often reception and production. People are reading, they're speaking, they're writing, they're listening to each other. Yeah. Other thing we saw today was, again, after last week, was mixed ability and differentiation. In our video lesson, there was a way of differentiating between students. Jessica, can you remember how we differentiated in the video lesson?
Um, I don't remember at this moment, but well, I think to differentiate the students, so you have to identify if they want to participate, if they feel ashamed, if they don't want to talk.
Okay, but in the video lesson that we saw, how was the task a bit different? Remember the screenplay and the storyboard?
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we
yes. For
can-
example, when the storyboard, like them because they can draw, they
Yeah.
drawing.
Yeah. So we adapt the tasks slightly, yeah?
Yes,
So it's easier for the students to do the
easier for the
storyboard,
students.
yeah? Yeah,
Yes.
good. And what about in project-based learning? Ines, how can we differentiate there? How can we adapt the tasks for weaker students or stronger students?
Maybe have a simpler, like a more simple festival text
Yeah,
and
that's a
give
good
it to
idea.
the weaker student.
Yeah, yeah,
Or maybe even give them, you know how there was the tables to fill up with information. Maybe give them the opportunity where they can draw instead of writing as much as well. So
that's
instead,
excellent. Yeah, yeah.
so maybe differentiating that as well, their ability.
You could also give stronger students responsibilities.
Mhm.
Like,
Mm.
for example, taking notes or reporting back.
Oh, okay, so maybe they have to report back to me
Yeah.
about their group.
Reporting back, yeah. Yeah. Great.
Can I say something about it?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
For example, in my group, it's a 6th grade, so I have 25 students in presential, and another one in Zoom.
Yeah.
In this case, so I can identify that, for example, from this group of 25, I have 5, for example, 5 that can get the information quickly. So when they finish, they began to help me with the other students.
Hmm.
And they feel better
Yeah.
because they are busy. They know that I am going to help you in their notes, and I'm going to make a little that I can recognize that they have another level or another abilities. Yes, another skills.
Do you give them special responsibilities?
Yes, I give them a special responsibilities.
Such as, for example?
For example, I can give them, for example, one activity with different level. And for example, they have to give me a little their point of view about one student, because they can tell me if he or she began to talk, began to speak. Yes, and because there are a lot of students for me, and they feel better because they have that. With that, they are improving their skills.
Yeah.
The pronunciation, the writing, and everything. The different skills, receptive and productive. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Lulu, any comments before we finish?
No, I think no. We only have to take care when we're planning how to set the activities between stronger and weaker students, because sometimes stronger students feels like how can I say it? Like freeze, because they can go in advance because they are waiting for the other students to reach the goal of the topic.
Totally, yeah, and they may resent you giving them responsibilities. Yeah.
But sometimes, well, in my case, sometimes some of my students doesn't like to have these responsibilities,
Uh-huh.
no matter if it's like an extra task, they don't like and they start like feeling frustrated. So you have to be really, really careful of how you manage this part, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. Great. Well, next week is our last session before the Easter break. On the 8th, we're not going to have a session. Okay. And then, so we'll have one on the 1st of April, then nothing on the 8th, and return on the 15th when Vicky will be with you. Now, next week is going to be writing and speaking. We'll do more on stories, and we'll also do pronunciation next week as well. So hope you can join us, and thank you for participating. You were excellent today.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice weekend.
Okay, I've made a recording, so if you want to review